Ladies and gentlemen, the EU5 release date has been announced. The first DLCs have been announced. The system requirements have been announced. And I can announce that I have access to EU5 as we speak, and I can talk about it. Hi, I'm the Red Hawk. I make videos primarily about EU4. Obviously, I'm going to be making videos about EU5. So let's jump into everything I just said. First, we're going to take a look at the release date, talk about the pre-order and stuff like that. Then we're going to get a little bit into the DLCs and the timeline of the DLCs that Paradox has planned for EU5. Then we're going to talk about the system requirements because I know a lot of fans have concerns about that. And then I'm going to mention a little bit about my experience with this latest, still work in progress build of EU5, which is once again going to relate to the system requirements and primarily the performance of the game. Let's jump in. Alright, here we are on the Europa Universalis page on Paradox Interactive's website, ladies and gentlemen. Yesterday at Gamescom, August 19th, the release date of EU5 was announced as November 4th this year. That's right, EU5 is only about 2 months away, ladies and gentlemen, and I am very, very happy that all of us will be playing it soon. Of course, with that, pre-orders have been activated. You can go ahead and pre-order the game on Paradox's site. This is not sponsored, by the way, or anything like that, or on Steam. And I can let you know that if you do want to support your boy right here, because I did just cash out a lot of money on a very expensive new PC to run EU5 for you guys and a very expensive camera so I can look good. You can use the link in the description when you go. It'll take you to this site. You can go ahead and click pre-order now, add your game to the cart right here, and once you go into your cart, you will see creator referral code activated, or you can use code the Red Hawk in all caps right here, and I get a portion of these sales. It would really help out the channel massively. But now we can get back to talking about this right here. So the first thing I'm going to mention about the release date, man, as you all know, us creators, some of us had access back in May, and that was a much older build, obviously. And when we got that build, we were sort of thinking, hey, this game is actually in a pretty good state right now. It could be released relatively soon. And some discussions, that we had amongst ourselves were like, okay, based on how the game is, the latest they would probably release it as like May or June next year, talking 2026, of course, and that seemed like a little bit far away. The earliest they could do it was probably like right about now, August, September, something like that, and that's if they sort of wanted to rush it, but we did all really feel that realistically this game could come out like November, December, around Thanksgiving, around Christmas, something like that, in an excellent situation, and yeah, that is how it turned out to be. So yeah, with pre-orders active, man, the release date is out, and there are a couple of things that I want to mention right here about the game itself. So that was pretty much it about the release date. November 4th, we're going to be rocking it. We're going to be doing videos. You guys are going to be playing it, and we're going to have a lot of fun. And that's really all I wanted to say about that and tell you about my link that you can use. Now let's get into the DLCs because I do have something to mention about this as well. So while you're still on this page, man, if you go to pre-order now, you will see that there is the base game EU5, which costs 60 euros for me at least. I don't know how it is in other currencies and in dollars and stuff like that, but you basically get the game and the pre-order soundtrack. And then you also have EU5 Premium Edition. This gives you the base game, the pre-order bonus, which is the soundtrack, and then an instant unlock the day the game releases. This is not a DLC. I'll get into that very soon. This is just cosmetic stuff. You just get it for free, and then it relates to other DLCs, not really DLCs, as you can see here, immersion packs, chronicle packs, all throughout 2026 for 85 euros. If we go back to the previous page and scroll down a little bit right here, you can see what the premium, edition is actually about. So this is the little roadmap of EU5 releases that we have planned. So Sacred Sites right here, that's an instant unlock on November 4th as the game releases, as I mentioned, and that is relating to these things right here. So we just get a little monuments in game just to spice up your map a little bit. EU5 looks great already, and I do think this is a nice addition. It's not something you need, but it's definitely a great bonus that you can get if you do end up getting the premium edition. Then, once we scroll back up here, you will notice, if you do get the premium edition, you will be able to save 20% with the premium edition comparing to buying the base game and all of these DLCs at full price. So you get a pretty nice discount along with all of these cosmetic monuments and stuff like that. Now, a lot of people obviously had concerns oh my god, how is the game not even out yet, but DLCs have been announced? Is Paradox, taking away things from the game and then sort of keeping them back just so they can sell it to the fans after the fact? And no, that is completely not the case from what the developers have said publicly, and from what has been relayed to us creators that we are also able to share to you guys publicly. It's not like it was a private conversation. If we go over to the Steam page right here, we can see a little bit more information about all of these DLCs or packs or whatever you want to call them, and when they're releasing. Obviously the first one, ladies and gentlemen, is Fate of the Phoenix, about Byzantium, and I'll get back into the taking away stuff thing very soon. So as the Byzantine Empire, revive and restore the faded glory of your Roman roots. Obviously this one is going to focus on adding even more things to Byzantium. Then we have Across the Pillars, where obviously this is Q2 2026, so it would probably be like April, May, or June. Then we got Q3 2026, July, August, September for Across the Pillars. Decide the fate of the strategically vital Strait of Gibraltar with new options for Castile and Morocco. And then we have Q4 2026, the Old Alliance, so October, November, December next year. France and Scotland stand united against English aggression if they can manage to unite themselves. So focused on Byzantium, Castile, and Iberian guys, and Morocco, and I guess France, Scotland, and possibly England right here. Now, to get back into the taking away things and then adding them back to the game. So that is totally not the case. The first thing that I can say about that is you can make a logical conclusion on the fact that it's not the case, because Byzantium and and Castile and England and France, they're already some of the most flavor-filled nations in the game, right? There's probably about 50 or 60 or 70 nations that have lots of content for them. All of these guys right here have unique government reforms, unique estate privileges, unique units, unique events, unique advances, and all of those things that, make a nation unique in EU5. All of these nations already have that, right? So it's not like the Paradox team sat down, thought of 100 things to add to Byzantium, and then said, let's take away 25 of those and sell them back at a DLC. Obviously, at a certain point, development for these kinds of things stops, right? Let's say in April, they finalized, okay, every nation is going to be as it is. From now on, we're working on performance, we're working on fixing bugs, we're working on the UI and stuff like that. And I can guarantee you a lot of things that will be included in these DLCs are probably not even thought of yet, right? So, if there were nations like, if the first DLC was like, let's say for the Ottomans, but the Ottomans didn't have any unique content for them, then sure, I'll believe you. They took away stuff so they can give it back. But all of these nations that are already getting DLCs, and they're not really even DLCs, these are going to be relatively cheap, just some flavor packs. All of these nations have a lot of flavor for them already. So that's why I really don't think it's a case of taking things away and then giving things back. And like I mentioned, you will get a discount on all of these things, if you do get the premium edition. And then, of course, there's some more information about all of these DLCs, just like a little teaser about what they're going to be about. Fate of the Phoenix, restore and revive Roman power as the Byzantine Empire in this immersion pack, right? So it's not really an expansion pack, it's an immersion pack, sort of how the latest EU4 DLCs have been, with the missions and stuff like that. It includes new means to stand up to the rising Ottoman threat in Anatolia. And trust me, you're going to need it because, boys, I think Byzantium in EU5 is harder than in EU4. But don't tell anyone. Chances to reunite a broken Christian church. So, mending the schism, restoring the pentarchy, maybe stuff like that. And maybe even restore the glory that was once Rome. Of course, we're all going to do that. What are you thinking? Then Across the Pillars, drop yourself into the climactic struggle for the future of the Iberian Peninsula in this Chronicle pack. So we still don't even know what a Chronicle pack is, right? Maybe even less things than an immersion pack, right? Maybe it's just going to be some events, some scripted scenarios that happen. I guess we're going to have to see. I have no information about any of this aside from what I'm reading with you guys here. As a rising Castile asserts itself to evict the last successors of the Moorish dominance in the region, or as Morocco beat back the armies from the north and reestablish her dominance over the strategically vital Strait of Gibraltar. And then finally we have the Old Alliance, the famous alliance between Scotland and France. This Chronicle pack, so another Chronicle pack, I guess this is sort of like a main-ish one, but I wouldn't even call it a main-ish one. From how I understand this, at least, if we have 3 tiers, it's like Chronicle pack, which is the lowest. Nothing will really change that much about your game. It's sort of if you like playing these countries or those regions. Then we have an immersion pack, which is sort of the middle ground, a nice update to this certain region or this certain nation. And then I think we will have sort of expansions or whatever, which none of have been announced over here, that will really focus on, you know, new mechanics and stuff like that. I guess we'll have to see. But going back to this Chronicle pack adds a new historical content and flavor for France and Scotland, two nations bound together by a mutual distrust of the English crown. You know, respect for that. You know, not to portray myself as a French lover here, but respect for that. Consolidate your power by uniting these divided realms and explore unique historical situations for each. And once again, going back, man, you know, a lot of people, you know, were complaining about the DLCs. Not to say that your complaints aren't valid or take away anything from that, but that is how the Paradox business system works. We're all familiar with it by now. And, you know, this is the reason you can have games such as these, such as EU4, such as HOI4, you know, CK3 and VIC3 obviously being the latest, and EU5 now. This is what enables these games to be supported for years to come, more than a decade, for EU4, right? Would you rather have something like this that you can optionally get if you want to, or would you rather be playing, you know, FIFA and Black Ops and stuff like that, and have a new game every year that is, well, pretty much the same game, let's face it. So, I don't know. I'd rather, you know, pay 10, 15, 20 bucks once or twice a year for these things if I want to, optional, rather than buying EU6 the next year and EU7 after that and EU8 after that. So those are my thoughts on the DLCs. I think the game will be perfectly fine with all of these. Like it says right here, they're just immersion and chronicle packs. Nothing drastically will be changed. The game will receive free updates to mechanics and stuff like that, as it always has. For EU4 and other games, so fret not. You don't have to get the DLCs if you don't want to. It's just, you know, it's just a part of a region if you want to play in it. And of course, you save 20% with the premium edition. Use code TheRedHawk at checkout. Now let's talk a little bit about the system requirements, and then I'm gonna lead into you know, my experience with the performance. And I have a unique position in this because, well, I've tried it on 2 different PCs. So now if we scroll down on the Steam page right here, obviously, ladies and gentlemen, we will be able to take a look at the system requirements, which are posted on the EU5 page on the, you know, over here, I think. Or no, actually, I think it's when you go to your, it's when you go to pre-order, you are able to see. Yeah, these are the system requirements. I like this page a little bit better. So a lot of people were concerned about this as well, that the recommended requirements are really high. And at first glance, yes, it does look like that, but let me break it down for you guys why these requirements really aren't that bad. So, first we got the minimum requirements. Intel Core i7 8700K. This is an 6-year-old processor, 16 gigs of RAM, which, let's face it, in the modern day is not enough for gaming, boys. Maybe for a laptop it's enough, but if you're doing any kind of, at least, I don't know, more than casual gaming, you really need 32 gigs of RAM. And then we have a GeForce 1060, which is, man, this is so old. It's like 5 generations ago, right? So the minimum requirements really aren't that bad, right? And Paradox games always, and I'll lead into this a little bit more in the next chapter of this video, but they're always the most processor intensive, right? Your graphics card really doesn't matter that much. It's all about the processor. And if the minimum processor is, and let me actually see when this one was released. Yeah, it's almost 8 years old at this point. It's really not that bad for the minimum requirements, and 16 gigs of RAM and a 1060, 6 gigs only, which is so old, right? Like this, you will be able to run your game. The performance, I honestly don't know how it'll be. I don't have a system this old that I can test it on, but these minimum requirements, boys, really aren't that bad, man. And I'm anticipating, honestly, more than 85% of you guys to have better PCs than this, because if you've bought a PC in the last, honestly, in the last 6 years, it's probably better than this. Then I want to move on to the recommended requirements, which is what most people had concerns about as opposed to the minimum requirements. So the first thing I think that got right into people's eyes is the recommended processor right here, the i7 14700K, which is a pretty new-ish processor from Intel and one of their best, right? It's like it's probably still considered a top-tier CPU from the past 2 years, or maybe it's 3 years old at this point. I think it's 2 years old. and then the 32 gigs of RAM, which honestly, once again, let me go back to the fact that everyone that is doing any types of more than, casual gaming should have. And then we have the graphics card, which is the 3060 Ti, which is a lower end graphics card. And I'm going to say this again, 2 generations old at this point, from 2021, so more than 4 years old over here. So this right here, at least according to me, these graphics cards and the RAM really isn't a major concern. The processor, I do understand, you guys, how this could be a major concern since it's such a powerful processor and so new. And another thing that I have to add about these recommended requirements is this is for 4K max settings. Okay, this is recommended for 4K max settings. Personally, myself, I still use 1080p. The only reason for that is because EU4 doesn't look good on more than 1080p, so that's why I still use 1080p monitors. By the way, I am going to continue to use 1080p monitors for EU5 and for everything like that. I really don't do a lot of gaming, boys, aside from this. 4K doesn't mean that much to me, if I'm being honest, and this is max settings right here. So, going back once again, like I said, the processors have been and always will be the most demanding thing. I would say these requirements are 85% about the processor. I do understand how this can be a concern, but if you do have a middle ground, I think between these two, I have an 11700K, so exactly the middle ground between these two, and I'll give you my performance on those right here. I have it written down how the game performs on an 11700K, which is the average between these two. I think you'll be all right. Once again, if you're not playing on 4K max settings, which is what these requirements are for, and if you have a processor between these two, I think EU5 is going to perform just dandy for you guys. No joke. So that is my thoughts on the system requirements right here. Once again, this is a very, very old build of PC right here. Like I said, if you have a PC that's, at least 6 years old, you're going to have something better than this. I don't think there's going to be a problem on minimum requirements. Obviously, you can always play with the flat map always on, which is how I play. There will probably be mods that impact performance as well. I don't think it'll really be that much of a problem. Of course, I don't know about the late game. That is one thing I can say. I don't know about the late game. I guess we'll have to see. Recommended, sure, processor is high, but if you have the middle ground, you'll be all right. Now, leading off from these system requirements, I'm going to talk a little bit about how performance, which is what we just discussed, has been for me on the old build that we all got in May, that there's videos about, and on the new build that I have right now, both of which I have to say are still work in progress builds. They're still being worked on, the performance is being worked on, bugs are being fixed, so nothing is final from any of the two builds that I'm about to discuss. All right, here we are on Google Docs. Sorry if I've blinded you with the lightness, but here is where I'm going to discuss my, experience with these two builds of EU5. Like I said in the intro, I do currently have access to a work-in-progress build of Europa Universalis 5. I can't show any footage or anything like that. I am allowed to discuss everything. We will be able to show footage maybe soon. Definitely, probably before the release date. We just can't do it now. I don't know when that happens. Of course, when it does happen, you guys will see. So subscribe for more EU5 stuff if you haven't already. And leave a like if this video has been helpful for you. So here are the old PC and the new PC build. So the old PC is an 11700K. NVIDIA RTX 3080, 32 gigs of RAM at 3200 megahertz, game running on an SSD. 2021 build means from what year this build is pretty much. And then we're going to talk about how EU5 and EU4 have run on it. And then here's the new PC that I'm currently on, Ryzen 7 9800X3D, NVIDIA RTX 5080, 64 gigs of RAM at 5600 megahertz, game running on an SSD, 2025 build. I literally just got it 2 weeks ago. So the first thing I'm going to mention right here is how the game runs, and these are, empirical stats that can be measured very easily, not just based off a feeling that I have. So the first thing I'm going to note right here is EU4, because a lot of you guys watching, I'm sure, do have EU4, so you can compare it to your PC, and maybe based on how EU4 runs, you can deduce how EU5 will run once you do end up getting it. So EU4 on observer mode, meaning we can see the whole map, every single country, every single unit, from December 1st, 1444 to December 1st, 1445 takes 32 seconds for a year to tick by on speed 5. Keep in mind, this is the PC build. This is how long it takes for EU4. So you can measure this on your own PC as well. Now, EU5 on this same PC, the build that I currently have access to, still very much a work in progress build. Observer mode, once again, we can see the whole map. From April 1st, 1337 to April 1st, 1338 takes 59 seconds for a year to tick by on speed 5 for me. So this is how EU5 performs on this build compared to how EU4 performs on this build. So if you have a build, maybe you can measure the time it takes for a year to tick on EU4 Observer for yourself, and then you can sort of deduce how EU5 will run. And keep in mind, I do have a flat map always on, and I have not messed with any of the default settings. So I haven't increased anything, I haven't decreased anything. What the game gave me, that's what I'm playing on. So no, this isn't minimum or maximum settings for EU5. I would say it's probably like medium-ish settings for EU5. So that is how those two games run on this PC. This is the build that I currently have, still a work in progress one. Then, the new PC, once again, I mentioned the stats right here. EU5 Observer Mode, once again, we can see the whole map. December 1st, 1444 to December 1st, 1445. It takes 17 seconds for a year to tick by on speed 5. So, almost twice as fast. Twice this is 32 seconds. So, almost twice as fast this build compared to this build, talking about EU4. Now, going into EU5, which as I know what you guys want to hear, once again, a build that I currently have access to, still very much work in progress build. Observer mode, we can see the whole map, April 1st to April 1st. It takes 31 seconds for a year to tick by on speed 5. So almost once again, twice as fast. So by comparing the speeds of EU4 to EU5, at least the build that I currently have, let me say once again, you can see how if you had this build, EU5 would run for you. But let me say once again, because it's still a very much work in progress build, I honestly do expect performance to still get better by the time EU4 launches. And keep in mind, the game runs way faster. It's just something I haven't measured or written down when you're actually playing as a country, right? This is, we can see the whole world. The game probably, if I'm playing a country, it'll probably take like 25, 26 seconds for a year to tick by. Depending on, of course, which countries and how many countries you can see, how much of the map is revealed to you. So at least that is my experience from these builds. Obviously, the game can get worse, right? Performance-wise, it's only going to get better. So I do have a lot of trust in how much just performance has progressed from the build that we had in May to the build that we currently have, and I have written down something about that as well. So when loading the old build from May, which was also work in progress, on my old PC, this is on an old PC right here, it took me about 5 or 6 minutes, boys, from clicking play in Steam, you know, in the bottom right, play Europa Universalis 5, to when I'm actually in as a country, right? Now, on this same old PC, and I tested this, it takes less than a minute from clicking play to, you know, actually being in as a country. Once again, the newer build, still work in progress. And on this new PC that I'm currently on this one right here, it takes less than 20 seconds for me to click play and then jump in as a country. So you can see just in these two builds that I've had access to and that other creators have access to, how much the performance has increased, how much better it's gotten, and how much I personally think it will get better. Even if it's only like 10%, I do expect a performance increase up until November, the release date. But even if performance doesn't increase, I think this is still very good. I still think these are very good, times it takes for a year to tick by. And keep in mind, the current build of EU5 that it takes on this old PC, 59 seconds, the build from May probably took almost 2 minutes for a year to tick by. And that wasn't even in Observer. That was playing as a country on speed 5. Current speed 5 for EU5 on this PC is faster for me than speed 4 was on the build that I got in May. So once again, a huge shout out to the team, man, for making such, honestly, for me, giant performance leaps in just these couple of short months. And I do think it will be even nicer when the game does come out. So you can look at some of these stats. Obviously, the game is subject to change. You can do little tests for yourself let's say how fast EU4 takes a year for you on Observer, you can pretty much expect about double the time to take for EU5. And that's still on the build that I currently have. That's still a work in progress build. I cannot stress that enough. The one that I'm playing is not the final release version of EU5. So yeah, man, those were my thoughts that I had about you know, the release date for EU4, the fact that pre-orders are active, and I know your opinion on pre-orders for you guys. You know, a lot of people don't like pre-ordering things. They want to see how the game performs for other people. They want to see, you know, if games are buggy, if there are issues and stuff like that. So, you know, I'm not knocking your opinion if you guys do not choose to pre-order. If you're excited, you can go ahead and pre-order. If you know you're going to get the DLCs, you can pre-order. If not, of course, you can wait and see how things are and then get the game, because I know a lot of us are excited about EU5. But if you do end up pre-ordering it, make sure to use my link in the description and in the pinned comment, or when you go to buy it at Paradox's site. Use code TheRedHawk. You gain a Steam key, so it's not like you're buying anything else. It just gives you a Steam key. You put it into Steam, and boom. So yeah, that's what you guys. That's my thoughts on the, you know, the pre-order and the release date. You guys heard my thoughts about the DLCs. How I personally don't think, and Paradox has said that they're not really taking things away just to add them in back later, and it's gonna go based on what players want and what players want to be added and which nations players want developed. And then, of course, I gave you my thoughts on the system requirements, which are, of course, down here, and how these system requirements relate to my experience playing on work-in-progress builds of EU5. But I think that's all I have to say about that, man. Final release date, November 4th. We're all going to have lots of fun this fall and winter, man, and I'm very excited for you guys to get into it as well. I'm super excited to start making videos about EU5, which some, of course, are going to be before the game even comes out. Of course, after the game comes out. And yeah, man, if you want to support the channel, once again, just plugging the link and the code right here, you'll gain a Steam key. It really will help out a lot. This PC that I showcased right here is very expensive. And yeah, let me know your thoughts about the release date. Let me know your thoughts on the system requirements. Do you agree with what I said? I'm just trying to be objective here, not trying to like shill or anything like that. Let me know your thoughts on the DLCs after what I just said, and let me know what you think about the performance as well, because I think, you know, of course, EU5 is my job, man. I'm not being paid by Paradox to say anything here, but I do think EU5 is shaping up to be an excellent launch. I know a lot of people are concerned after how Victoria 3 and, you know, Imperator turned out, or even City Skylines 2, which is a Paradox published game only. They didn't make it. People have a right to be concerned, but, you know, from everything we're seeing so far, man, I do think EU5 is going to shape up to be most likely the best launch for a PDX game, just from everything we're seeing right now and how receptive the team is and stuff like that. So yeah, let me know what you guys think, man. And yeah, that's it for me for now. Subscribe for more EU5 and EU4 content, and I guess I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.